Okay, so how much protein can you ingest at one time without the protein going to waste? You know, in other words, you read a lot and you see a lot of people voicing and spouting opinions that you can't have more than 50 grams of protein in a meal, or you can't have more than 40 grams, or whatever number they throw out there. Otherwise, it's just a waste. And the thing that kills me the most about people that want to put their, of course they're entitled to their opinion, but the people that want to throw this kind of shit out there are usually people that can't do it themselves. They're usually not really huge guys with a lot of muscle mass. They're not guys with a lot of muscle mass. They're guys that are very, underdeveloped, mediocre, whatever you want to say. So really, bodybuilding, as far as the quest for like size and muscle, etc., even conditioning, if you're talking about conditioning, always, I think, because bodybuilding is a game of extremists, it's a game of extremes. We're not just looking for, what most people consider to be a healthy amount of muscle. We're looking for a lot more than that. And when you get into shape or when you get ripped, right, you're not looking to be just lean by conventional, normal standards, healthy looking lean. You're looking to really get drastically over the top shredded, with striations and all this shit. So it's a game of extremes. And that's what you need to remember. When you look at some of these people and they're giving you advice or giving information, there's as much bad information, or actually there's more bad information than there is good information out there. Because all these guys that want to pretend to be, everybody wants to be something, right? They need something to be able to create an identity, I suppose. And so, they pretend that they're some kind of an expert or something because they've read a lot of stuff or Googled a lot of stuff. Well, pretty much anybody can do that. Even people that have problems with vision can still read. There's Braille, so people can still, or there's all audio books. So anyone can read something and just mimic it back, and that doesn't mean that they understand it completely, or more importantly, that they could possibly apply it. I mean, the body's a fairly complicated organism, and when people that aren't extreme themselves, okay, if a guy wants to tell you about conditioning, but he has never been able to achieve any kind of extreme level of conditioning, then I would kind of take his advice. If it's good intentions and it's good-naturedly presented, then you may find something useful there, but I wouldn't take that guy as some kind of authority, that's for sure. Not if I'm looking to do something much more drastic, or if I'm already beyond that point myself, which I don't think anybody that's already really beyond that point or that far, we don't look at these guys and actually or have any interest in whatever the fuck they've got to say, to tell you the truth, to be quite honest. Same thing with muscle mass. If there's a guy on there and he wants to talk about muscle mass and how to acquire muscle mass, and he really doesn't have very much, or that's he's not the authority on muscle mass. Now, can he give you some basic principles and ideas that are going to work and have worked for him? Of course he can, for sure he can. But I'm talking about this crowd of people that want to come out there and they're very sarcastic about their presentation, and they want to act like if you doubt it or anybody would disagree with it must be a complete moron, of course, because this is the final word. This study says this and that says that. Look, it's as simple as this, and to any of you fucking morons that I'm talking about that might be watching this or lurking around, which you probably aren't because I don't really have that many viewers, and that's fine with me. It's a little more elite type status here than you're going to see out there. This is pretty much a niche market that I'm trying to communicate with people like myself, man, real people, homegrown stuff, grassroots, fucking guys that have jobs and work all day, and all this other shit, and responsibilities much fucking further and beyond, lifting weights and eating food. But this is how we get it done. We really get it done. Motherfuckers with calluses on their hands and things. All right? And that's probably why I think a lot of people that tune into what I do, or what I have to say, my opinion's not really what I do. I do a lot of other things. This is just a hobby. A lot of people that tune in, I believe, I get a lot of people from the UK. I get a lot of people from the eastern part of the United States, I believe. And I think the reason for that is because these are areas that are known for blue collar work ethic. You know, the weather's not always great. It's not like you're out in La La Land where you've got, ideal weather, sunny conditions year round. So it's such a beautiful and wonderful and mellow place. And no, a lot of us come from some hard places and some rough places, and there's snow and there's fucking ice and there's, and you still got to go out and trudge through it and get it done. So kind of just as a fucking warning, when you're watching some of these other guys, these so-called authorities on things, look at what the fuck they look like and what they've been able to achieve. Can they give you some basic ideas? Yeah, man, I can share with you something I read. But can they tell you something from experience? Well, if they believe that that's what they're doing and they've never really been able to achieve it themselves, then, I don't know what to tell you from there. You can draw your own conclusion. So anyway, what I've got to say about protein and how much you can take at a time. Something that these knuckleheads don't really think about when they spout this shit off. You can only absorb 50 grams or any more than 40 grams or whatever fucking precarious number they just pull out of the fucking, atmosphere to give you, is that they're not considering a lot of factors here. There's assimilation rates, okay? What's the source of the protein we're talking about? Okay, 40 grams of beef isn't the same as 40 grams of egg. And 40 grams of egg isn't the same as 40 grams of whey isolate, right? The assimilation rates, and again, we go back to what I consider the Bible of protein, which is protein efficiency ratio table. And that's a pretty good guideline as far as, which proteins have the better assimilation rates. And by that, of course, I mean, you're going to eat 40 grams of X protein, and how much of that is going to actually get to the muscle tissue? How much, end result, where the fucking, rubber hits the road, where the bullet meets the bone, how much of that actually gets to the muscle? Okay, you're going to have eggs are much higher rated than beef or chicken. More of that is going to get to the muscle than the same amount, gram for gram, of a lesser protein such as chicken or such as beef. And they're not, I'm not saying they're not good proteins. They're awesome proteins. You need a wide variety in your diet. But if you were really going to sit down and lose sleep at night trying to figure out how much protein you can have at a time without wasting any, you would have to consider, what's the source of this protein? Then you would have to consider, what are digestion times? What are digestive times? How long for this protein to clear? How long before this protein's in my bloodstream? And then again, you're considering source. Whey isolate, shit gets in there very, very quickly. Hydroslate gets in there really quickly. Beef, going to take a long time. Casein, basic milk protein, the majority of what's in milk, that takes hours to digest. So how long does it take to digest? And then what do you think? There's like a fucking gate there, like a border crossing, where all the protein accumulates as it digests. And then at the last minute, when the last little bit of protein is digested and that whole bit of protein you just ate is ready to be released, the gate opens and now it's just fucking shoved out into your bloodstream? No. It's digested little by little and slowly released into the bloodstream. So if you take in 50 grams of whatever the fuck, that 50 grams, you ain't got to worry about that, because that 50 grams isn't going into the muscle all at the same time. Especially if it's a slower digesting protein. If it's a casein or something like that, it takes hours, so it's more of a trickle digestion. Okay, so you see where I'm going with this? And then you got to consider, is the subject you're considering, the guy next door, me, are we taking digestive enzymes? Are we doing anything? How efficient is our digestive system, right? Am I enhanced or am I not enhanced? Can I process my food more efficiently than the next guy? Or can he process his food more efficiently than myself? So it's just so many factors play in. It's impossible to actually know how much protein you can eat at one time and it's going to get to the muscle. Now, unless you're going to get to extremes, again, if you're going to sit there and try to take in 200 grams of any protein at one time, like whey isolate. If I take in 200 grams of whey isolate, that's going to be a fucking waste, of course. All of that protein is, it's just too much at a time. It's just common sense. I would think it was too much at a time. And I might be wrong. But to me, it would seem wasteful. The body much rather has, a continuous supply than just huge lumps spread out in the day. Like, for example, you're better off to take, say you're going to get 300 grams of protein a day. If you divide that up into 4 fucking feedings, so over a period of 4 consumptions throughout my daily period, right, over that daily period, broken down into 4 consumptions, I'm going to get this totality of 300 grams of protein. Do you think that I'm going to grow better from that or have a better chance at growing, or my body's going to prefer that, as opposed to if I broke that down to 8 consumptions and just still only got 300 grams totality over the course of the day? Well, let me tell you another secret. Say you're getting 300 grams a day and you're only getting it in over the course of 3 or 4 feedings. If you break that down to 6 feedings or 8 feedings, right? And I'm talking about small amounts. You don't have to sit there and have a whole fucking 3-course meal every time. You could cut that protein back way far. You could totality-wise get in 50 grams less and still grow more, because the body prefers that constant trickle. It just needs protein on hand, needs the building blocks, needs the amino acids on hand in the bloodstream when it needs it, all the time. So the closer you can get to continuous grazing, which is what we're intended to be anyway, grazers, the closest you can get to just continually grazing rather than having any set type of meal pattern, I believe the better your results are going to be for muscular gain. So all these things are things to consider, okay, when you're thinking about protein sources. How quickly is the protein going to get in there? How much of that protein percentage-wise is going to get to the muscle compared to another choice of protein? So you would think that would lead me to say, since whey isolate is like off the chart, above egg and every other thing assimilation-wise, then why wouldn't I just consume strictly whey isolate all day long and nothing else? Because everything else is going to be less. It's going to take more of it to get the same amount to the muscle. You follow what I'm saying? It's going to take more. Okay? Whereas the whey isolate, I can consume less whey isolate. Okay? In other words, if I take in 50 grams of this whey isolate, hydroslate, damn near almost all of that is getting to that muscle. A large percentage of that, huge, is getting near that muscle. You cannot reproduce this effect with any type of natural occurring substance that you can just eat without it being modified like this is. Nothing touches it. Egg, beef, chicken, fish, nothing. Milk as it stands on its own. So you would think, well then, why don't you just consume whey isolate all day long? I also believe that your body needs a constant source of a variety of sources of protein for various reasons, and it's also strategy. With this, I'm still going to go in between. There's going to be periods where there's no protein, because no matter how I slice or dice it or break it up, if all I consume is like hydroslate isolate all day long, there's going to be periods where my body has no protein. It's going to clear that quickly. It's going to be in and out. So when I first get out of bed in the morning, after basically fasting all night long as I've slept, I'm going to go with the whey isolate, the hydroslate. I want it in there quickly, 50 grams, bang, immediately. Okay, right after the workout. People can tell you whatever they want to about anabolic window, it's not real, it's been proven that. All these people that spout this shit aren't big. You don't really see a bunch of huge pro fucking, super heavyweight amateurs or huge muscular motherfucking guys telling you that there's no point in ingesting protein right after the workout, do you? No. So I would say that immediately following the workout, my first source is going to be a whey isolate and a hydroslate. Then before bed, I want something longer lasting. So I may have a huge meal. It's going to be some kind of solid food source, of course. It could be a huge beef meal. It could be a huge, it could be something with a lot of milk involved. And maybe if I don't, maybe I'm broke. Maybe I can't afford to eat meat like that all day long. Well, then I'm going to have, some kind of casein. I'll have a lot of milk, a whole thing of 2% milk, 1% milk. Fat as I am, I need skim. Whole thing of skim milk or something, a whole quart. Drink it down before I go to bed, maybe more. Who knows? And that'll see me through the night. So you use strategy when you consider your sources of your protein. What are you shooting for? What are you trying to accomplish versus where you're at? And maybe you can be choosy that way in regards to what and when you consume. And throughout the day, then it's just a wide variety. Myself, I have same thing with fish. All right, if I want to take in more calories, I need more calories, let's say, and I already have a decent program, but I need more calories, and I would maybe only switch if I'm just trying to incrementally go up very slowly, but I don't want more carbs. Then I would go ahead and switch, like if I'm ingesting whitefish or some kind of clean whitefish, I would switch to salmon. Just even a small change like that can make a difference. So, and again, this is just my opinion and based on experience and things that have worked for me, and I'm not really that different than anybody else. So if it worked for me, a former really scrawny, skinny kid, it'll probably work for anybody. So that's just all I want to do, is just kind of stimulate your mind to think a little bit. When you hear people trying to say shit like, oh, it's a waste to consume more than X amount of protein at a time, call bullshit. Let them go ahead and continue to Google and scribble on paper and figure out these mathematical equations or whatever nonsense they're doing. And they can continue to talk about that while you continue just to do your thing and grow. So basically that's what we're about here. Do your thing and grow.